All right, I don't want to get too far down the road playing with my typography yet till I know where my shapes and graphics are going to lie, because they need to work together. So in the previous video, we learned how to use the type tool and how to start getting fonts set in motion here. But what I want to do now is spend some time going over shapes, how to modify the colors, adding some separate graphics, and then making different artboards so we can have multiple comps. So right now what I'm going to do is just create a background. I'm going to hit the letter M to get my rectangle tool selected here, and hold down the space bar to drag up a little bit. And one thing I want to make sure you're seeing, I see these smart objects, or I'm sorry, these smart guides here. It's these little pink lines jumping up all over the place. And it's really helpful to let you know, are you lined up with something else on the canvas? In this case, I want to draw a rectangle to get my background from here down to the bottom. And I couldn't quite see the bottom, so I just let go. I can grab this anchor point and finish my sizing of that. But if you're not seeing those pink guides, go ahead and jump up here to view and make sure you've got smart guides turned on, and maybe even snap to point. That might help you out with your layout and getting things the way you want it. I'm going to go ahead and change this color. I want it to be more of a sea vibe here, so we're going to go for something more in the blue tone. And if you're not seeing this color window, again, go to your essentials. I'll just hit reset essentials, click on this little flyout menu, and then I see my color bars here. I can also click on this tiny little drop down menu and hit show options, which lets me refine my colors even further. I still have this color bar, the CMYK color spectrum, but I can come in here and add, let's say, just a little bit of black just to kind of darken it up a touch, maybe a little more cyan to make it a little more of a true blue. All right, there we go. Now in Illustrator, we have layers just like we do in Photoshop, but it works a little bit differently. Inside of each layer, we can have multiple layers. So we have this main layer here, and I can rename this anything I want to. But if I hit this little drop down, you can see every element within this layer. So I could create a brand new layer here and draw something else. And I can tell it's on a different layer because my guides, when it's selected, are a different color. So these are red. Anything in this layer, whether it's type or multiple shapes, let's change colors so you can see what's going on. All of these are in this layer, and you can see those objects directly here. I'm going to delete that whole layer, which deletes everything on that layer. The only reason why I showed you that is because you can have your entire project on one layer, which is a lot of times how I work. And the reason why, let me bring these back real quick. If I select this blue rectangle and I hit Command right bracket to try and bring this up as far as I can, that's the same as going to, let's see, where are we at? Object, arrange, bring forward or bring to front. That's how you can change your stacking order. Well, it'll only go to the top of this layer. It'll never come all the way to the front. Well, a lot of times when I'm working in Illustrator, I'm creating logos or shapes or different things, and I want to work quickly. So rather than using multiple layers for what I do, and some people would advise against this, you can work with however you want, but I like to keep everything on one layer, and then that way I can quickly, so I've got this selected, I'm going to hit Command and the left bracket, it's the one right to the right of the letter P on your keyboard. So that left bracket key, Command left bracket, and you can see I can change it in the stack by hitting Command left or right bracket. It's a quick way, or Command Shift to throw it all the way to the bottom, so Command Shift left bracket or Command Shift right bracket. So again, I usually work in one layer so I can quickly change my stack and my layout here. All right, I'm going to bring my layers panel back down in here. I'm going to nest it back where it was. All right, so I've got my background selected here, and I'm okay with this color for now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this object, and the reason why is as I'm working with text, see right there, I was trying to grab that text and I accidentally selected the background instead and move the background. So I'm going to click on that once, hit Command 2 to lock it. That's the same as going to Object, Lock, Selection. Okay, and what that does is it makes it so I can't select it anymore. It's like it doesn't even exist. That way I can focus on my typography and my poster and the text changes that I'm making. Okay, so the next thing I want to do, I'm just going to move, let's see, I'm just going to move this over to the side. I already created, well, I didn't create, but I purchased a graphic for us to use. So I'm going to open that up. Feel free to open that up from the assets folder. And there are just some vector illustrations here of anchors. Feel free to grab whichever one you want. I'm just going to grab this guy right here. I'll click once on it, Command C to copy it. I'll click back on that document we came from and hit Command V to paste it in there. And now I can click and drag to resize this. But you can see I'm having a hard time really even seeing it because there are so many anchor points. Like the entire thing looks blue. It's one big selection. It's really a brown anchor, but as I zoom out, you couldn't tell that because there's too many anchor points going on. So I'm going to hit Command H, Control H on a PC, and that's going to hide those anchor points. They're still there. My item's still selected. If I hover over it, you see I still have these bounding box around it selected. So I know that it's selected. It just hides all those points so I can really see the color I'm working with. Now what I'm going to do is hit the letter I for my eyedropper tool over here on the side. I'll click once on that blue color, and now it looks like it disappears, but really it's just the exact same color as the background. The reason why I did this is I want it to be in the same tonal range. I'm going to click once on this thumbnail, this fill here over on the side. I'm going to turn off only web colors because I want to be able to show any color I want here. And then I'm just going to lighten this up just a touch. So we're still kind of within the same color range. I'm just making it a touch lighter. And now I'll hit OK. So this looks pretty good. It's a nice subtle effect. It's a subtle anchor. And I want to make sure it's dead center. So I'm going to click once on this, making sure it's selected. In my options bar, I have this tiny little align to artboard button. If you don't see these alignment options, it's probably because it's set to align to selection. And since I don't have any other selections selected, I don't see them. So I'll click that drop down, click align to artboard, and now it's going to use my artboard as a reference to align this. So I'll click once on the horizontal align center, and I'll click once on the vertical align center. So now I know my object is directly centered in the canvas here. I'm going to zoom out just a touch to see it. I'm also going to jump over to that original typography poster I made just as a reference here to see where we're going with things. And you'll notice it's a little bit different. I flip-flop the colors. My background is currently lighter and my anchor is a little darker. So I'm going to jump back over here and scale this one up quite a bit to reflect what I had on that original design. Let's look at it one more time. That's close, pretty close. Okay, a smooth sea, never made a skillful sailor. So this one is a pretty straight design. I'm going to come back to this original editable text that we had. Command Shift right bracket to bring it all the way to the front. And let's see, a smooth sea. I'm going to click once right in there, hit return, never made. Click once behind the A, hit return, a skillful sailor. And now what I can do, actually I'm going to highlight all this, Command A to copy. Click over here, click once, Command V to paste. And the reason why is because as I start to scale this up, it's going to get all wonky on me here because it's going to hit those, and I don't know, this could be a cool effect too, but it's going to hit that bounding box and make things flow to new lines. I don't want to do that. I want it to stay exactly how I intended. So I'm going to hit Command Shift and the period key here to make it bigger, and it's not going to jump to 2 lines now because there is no bounding box. Now I'm going to hit Command Option and the down arrow key to adjust my leading here. Okay, let's take a look one more time. So not bad. That's about the way we went here. And what I'm going to do is drag this in place so the height of my font kind of matches center to that anchor there. Okay, and in the other version it was white, so what I can do is I can just come over here and either select this white box there, or I could have just used my slider to drag it up. Now one thing, if we look closely on this other one, you'll notice, let's take a look at that. What do we got going on? So I've got my font here, and let's look at my transparency window. So it's set at 100%. So what's going on here? I've got this anchor. Let's take a look at that. So my anchor is actually in front of my text here, creating that transparency effect. So what I can do, if you wanted to do that, we could bring the anchor in front, Command Shift right bracket, and see that's too much. I could bring the transparency down up here, or the opacity. Let's drop it to 50%. Now it's also going to make it a more subtle effect in the background, or I can put it back to 0 or at 100% here. Maybe bring my font to the front, and maybe I bring the opacity down on this a little bit. So you can play with that and get the desired effect you're going for. But I'm going to go ahead and stop right here on this setting just as is, like Command Save to make sure I save it. And in the next lesson, we're going to talk about how to create multiple artboards, and we're going to look at creating multiple variations and then how to export it.